Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, the first shock signing to come from the Enzo Maresca era. In today's video, we are going to break down Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, the type of player he is, how he got on at Leicester last season under Enzo Maresca, and then how he could look in this Chelsea side, how he could impact the run of play for Enzo Maresca, and how it could help him in that settling period at Chelsea. Dewsbury-Hall would start as that left-sided number 8 in Maresca's 4-3-3, and later it would become more of a 3-2-4-1 with Dewsbury-Hall operating in that left half space. This is very likely where we would see him operating for Chelsea, and in today's video we're going to break down his key characteristics for playing in this role and how he helps the side from this position. The first upside that has to be mentioned is the fact he's worked under Maresca before and his familiarity in Maresca's system. This is a floor-raising transfer. Bringing in a player that is familiar within the system will help Maresca to implement it quicker and with a seamless transition. Yes, it might not be as quick as some people would like, but it certainly raises the floor of having every single player in the team having to learn that system when one player is already familiar within it. One of the key roles of Maresca number 8 is the receiving ability of those number 8s and when to drop into those pockets between the wide centre-back and the winger. Dewsbury-Hall received 7.48 progressive passes per 90 and had 4.06 penalty area touches per 90, which shows that mixture of clever runs into these areas to pick up the ball and how to receive between the lines. This is such an important feature for Maresca's number 8, as the space is often in those wide areas where the wingers are pinning the fullback so high up the pitch and the wide centre-backs come infield that creates that massive gap for those 8s to drop into. And Dewsbury-Hall is brilliant in these areas due to those elite receiving abilities, but also his ability to carry from this area of the pitch and get his team up. Which brings us on to one of Dewsbury-Hall's, if not his best attribute, which is carrying the ball from deep spaces. Dewsbury-Hall averaged 3.91 progressive carries per 90, 1.46 successful take-ons, which is in the top 8% for midfielders, and this is a top-tier carrier over both distance and the areas that he carries into, which includes 2.57 carries into the final third and 1.04 carries into the penalty area, which is again amongst the top 5% for players in his position. Dewsbury-Hall is a creator and a playmaker, and he's often found in these left half spaces on the pitch, as you can see from his season heat map. It is very dominant towards that left half space and also filling in and around the left side of the box and that left wing position when he needs to. This is the area Dewsbury-Hall likes to make things happen and become a bit of a playmaker for his side. He averaged 0.35 assists per 90, which was within the top 1% for midfielders. He also averaged 5 shot-creating actions per 90, which is in the top 2% for midfielders, and made 6.73 progressive passes per 90. And these are the sort of passes you can expect from Dewsbury-Hall from that left half space, trying incisive through balls, trying to split the lines and allow the attackers to get in and around the box where they are most potent. And despite one of his best attributes being that ball-carrying side of his game to drive forward, that's not the only type of running he is amazing at. His actual ability to make the correct runs at all times, to manipulate space, make box-crashing runs, and get in and around the box to make things happen is absolutely quality. His willingness to make unselfish runs ahead of the ball to create space for those behind him, but also to create options in behind the defensive line and cause the defensive line a lot of issues, running between the centre-backs and even the centre-back and full-back a lot of the time, making those in-seam blindside runs. Here you can see him doing that again, making that run, splitting the centre-back and the full-back, creating space for those behind him in central areas to come and pick up the ball, but also splitting the lines and getting in behind. Again, this shows his ability as a receiver with those progressive passes received and also those 4.06 penalty area touches where he receives the ball in the penalty area by making those clever blindside runs. And then we can speak about his high IQ, and again, it comes back to him playing in Maresca's system before and having that connectivity about him that he knows exactly where to be within the system to help others and manipulate space for other people with his runs. Often with Mavididi at Leicester, you saw him taking up those left wing spots at times to allow Mavididi the space to drive inside and get onto his stronger foot to either create something from central zone or to get a shot off himself on goal. Here is an example of the winger driving inside. Dewsbury-Hall knows that because he's driving inside, he has to occupy that left space and also make that run away to not only drag players away to create more space for the winger to drive into, but also to create a passing option if Mavididi gets to a central zone where he can cut that ball back towards the wing. Again here, Dewsbury-Hall being wider and slightly more advanced in this area, he's dragging that fullback away so that Mavididi can drive inside and try and create something on the inside closer to the box. And this takes us back to those selfless runs that Dewsbury-Hall will make for his side to help the team, not just himself. By bursting to the outside to overlap Mavididi on the outside of his run, this will allow Mavididi to cut inside, and it will cause the defensive line some upset on whether to follow Dewsbury-Hall or whether to just focus on blocking the shot and stopping Mavididi from creating in and around the box. So it creates an upset in that defensive line, all from Dewsbury-Hall making a selfless run. And it's important to mention he is not just a threat in possession. His out-of-possession work rate is very good. He is a big factor for Maresca in that out-of-possession system. Him and Ndidi, they would take turns in often triggering the press to join the forward and sort of create that 4-4-2 shape, or more like a 4-4-2 diamond, with one of those players joining the front line to high press and try and win the ball back. His work rate is extremely good, and again, he's clever in the press. He knows when to jump and he can cover the ground well, so he knows exactly where and when to do so. A few extra talking points and a few extra bits of stats and info about Dewsbury-Hall. Firstly, he does take set pieces, and this is something Chelsea were looking to improve on this summer, already signing Tosin, who is a 6'5" centre-back from Fulham, who will add to that ability from set pieces, and also Elise, who they was interested in, was also a set-piece taker. Whilst being a number 8, Dewsbury-Hall is also versatile. He can play as a 6 or a 10 as well. Again, he's much more suited to that number 8, but he can play multiple roles, and he is a bit of a Swiss Army knife in that sense. Maresca took him up a level last season, making 49 appearances for Maresca, scoring 12 goals and making 15 assists. Whereas in the season prior, which was his Premier League season, he had 34 appearances, scoring 2 goals and having 2 assists. So we are watching him heavily to see if his output increases in the Premier League, working under Maresca again, or whether it was due to the Championship. I'm very confident that it is Maresca putting him in better position to utilise his skill set rather than the fact that it was the division change, because the Championship is still an extremely competitive division. And just to mention his box crashing ability, his ability to score goals, as we said with his stats there, he also takes 2.15 shots per 90, and his middle name is Frank, much like Chelsea legend and top goal scorer Frank Lampard. He has that shot volume and ability to arrive in the box. So will we finally see a midfielder arriving and scoring goals from central midfield for Chelsea, something that some people believe this squad lacks? So what do you guys make of this transfer? I don't mind it for the value. I think, as I said, it raises the floor for Maresca's integration period at the club, and I do think he will have a good impact on the side. Whether he cements himself as an absolute starter in every single game, I don't fully know yet, but I definitely think at the start of the season he's going to be extremely important, just to helping Maresca settle in at the club and help Chelsea get off to a quicker start than they would have without him.